So this video is sponsored by my friend Kate, who left this outfit at my flat, so now I get to look very professional and polished for this video, because this is going to be a very professional and polished video, let me tell you. So I've been procrastinating this video because there's a big difference to me between making a video that absolutely no one cares about and then just being surprised that it actually gets views, and making a video that, you know, a lot of people have been wanting to see and waiting for them to see it and hoping it was actually helpful. So I'm finally doing it, guys. I'm doing frequently asked questions about my experience as an international postgraduate master's student at the University of Glasgow in Scotland. So a lot of people who have seen my Moving to Scotland vlog have messaged me on Instagram asking for some advice on a few specific topics, and I've noticed that most of these topics fall in three distinct categories. And that is the visa application process, finding accommodation, and making friends and getting to know people. And let me tell you, I managed to do all of those things, so come with me on this journey and I'll tell you everything I know. I know a lot of you probably also have questions about how to possibly stay in the UK after graduation, how to find a job here, how to get sponsored for a work visa, etc, etc, etc. I will be making a separate video about how I specifically got a work visa to stay in the UK, which is why I'm still here in Glasgow. If you have any questions in that respect, I can answer them in that video. However, I would like to emphasize that I only know my own experience with getting a job while already living here and having to switch from a tier 4 to a tier 2 visa. I don't know anything else. I don't know anything about how to apply for a job when you're not already living here. I don't know anything about finding a job while you're here on a tourist visa. I get so many comments on my old Moving to Ireland video, like, I'm from the US and I want to permanently move to Ireland. How do I go about doing that, and what visa should I apply for? I don't know. It's like, clearly you didn't watch the video, because if you saw the first 5 minutes of it, you would realize that all of the information in that video came from 4 months of studying abroad in Galway. I was not on a work visa. I was not moving there permanently. Like, blows my mind. I would like to put it out there right now that I don't know the intricacies of the Irish immigration system, and now I don't know the intricacies of the UK immigration system. I don't know, but I do know how I did it, and I can give you some advice if you want to try to emulate what I did in any way. But again, that's for a later video. Right now, we're focusing on our education, specifically getting a postgraduate education in the UK at the University of Glasgow. Let's dig in. Now, I'm gonna give you a little bit of background information so you kind of know what you're working with here in terms of, you know, who's giving you advice. So, my name is Meredith, but you, as my friend, can call me Mare, of course. And I'm from the US, in North Carolina. I got my undergraduate degree at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I got a BS in biology and a minor in chemistry there. I decided that biology and chemistry wasn't really the route I wanted to take with my life, so I applied for a master's degree at the University of Glasgow. It was a conversion degree program that gave you a master's in software development after 1 year without having to have previous experience in it or having an undergraduate degree in it, which was perfect for me, because if there's anything I did learn in undergrad, it's that I really enjoyed computer science. I took a couple of coding classes and I absolutely fell in love with it. And I was like, you know what? I want to do this as a career. And this seems like the easiest way to, number one, do that, and number two, live a more international and worldly life. Technically, that has all worked out for me so far, because I do have a job as a software developer, and I am still living in Glasgow, Scotland. However, I am also under lockdown, so my life doesn't feel very exciting or adventurous right now. But anyways, enough about me. Let's talk about you. and the process that you are about to go through. And I'm not going to start with the visa application because there's one important step that you need to take before you do the visa application, and that is your application to study at the University of Glasgow. I'm gonna go over this really quick because I'm assuming if you've clicked on this video, you've probably already applied, already been given an acceptance. But in case you are considering applying and you're nervous about the application process, let me just ease your fears a little bit. Now, the application process is different for every program, and I'm assuming every program is different when it comes to how competitive or selective they are. In my case, I didn't have to write an essay or personal statement for my application, which was great because it allowed me to more spontaneously apply for this program. It did, however, require a letter of recommendation from a professor, and it did require a certain GPA. I remember that the GPA requirement was a 3.0 for US schools. I think for UK schools that would be a 2.1 or a 2.2. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember. It's been a while since I went through this process. After submitting my application and having a professor submit my letter of recommendation, I actually heard back with a conditional acceptance within probably about a week of applying. I believe I applied like late November, early December in 2018, and I heard back either the first or second week of December, and that was really cool because if you're at all familiar with my channel, you would know that the fall of 2018 is when I studied abroad in Ireland, in Galway, and so I actually got one of my professors from Galway who was teaching a database class to write my letter of recommendation. And when I heard back about my conditional acceptance, I was in Dublin with my parents who were visiting me, and it was a really exciting time, and it was just great. That's right, you heard me correctly, I got a conditional acceptance. They needed proof that I had met the GPA requirement and would have finished my program and have graduated with a diploma before they could unconditionally accept me. Now, let's say that you also, like me, applied while you were still finishing your undergraduate degree. Let's say you hit the GPA requirement, you graduated, you got your diploma. Now let's move on to the visa application. Now, when I started my visa application, I had not yet gotten my unconditional acceptance, even though I already knew that I had successfully graduated and I had gotten a 3.0. I had my final transcript, but I didn't have my diploma, and I needed to be able to send them a photocopy of my diploma to prove that I successfully graduated. And like me, you can start your visa application early before you've gotten your unconditional acceptance. That's totally fine, but you will not be able to complete it because when you get your unconditional acceptance, the University of Glasgow or whatever university you've applied to will send you a CAS number, a CAS number. I just realized I've never heard it out loud, so I'm not sure if it's a CAS or a CAS number. But anyways, they send you this number and they send you some information that you need to put in your visa application. And until you have this information, you cannot submit your visa application. So don't worry, be patient, just make sure you have your diploma, send it to the school, they will get you all straightened out. If you feel like it's taking an abnormally long time for you to receive your CAS number after you've gotten your unconditional acceptance, definitely ask about it, definitely make sure that everything's going smoothly, but I will say that a lot of people get very impatient with this process, and 95% of the time, it's gonna be okay. Now, while you shouldn't rush and you shouldn't panic about about information not getting to you on time, you also should not procrastinate on your visa application. Once you submit the visa application, you will have to sign up for a BRP appointment. BRP stands for your biometric residence permit, and essentially you will need to go to a building. It's kind of like the DMV for international affairs. I had to go to one in Raleigh, and what happens is you bring them some of your forms and information. They stamp or sign, I think, your visa checklist that you get when you print out the visa, and which you need to, again, send later. I'll go over this. Okay. And at the BRP appointment, they take your fingerprints, they take your picture. The picture that they take will appear on your biometric residence permit, and it will appear on a sticker in your passport. So make sure to brush your hair and make sure you don't have any black pepper in your teeth. Pro tip. Sometimes it's hard to get a BRP appointment, and you may have to book it a few weeks ahead of time. So again, please don't procrastinate on submitting your visa application because you cannot book the appointment until you have submitted your application. Another thing that happens besides booking this appointment when you submit your application is you're going to have to pay for the visa application, and you're also going to pay for a health surcharge, which is on top of the visa application, and it essentially lets you, once you have moved to the UK, it will let you enjoy all the services of the NHS and socialized healthcare, and it's incredible. I don't remember exactly what the cost of these things are, but they should be pretty easy to look up, but just be aware that you will not only be paying the application fee, you will be paying the health surcharge, so double check that you have enough money in your account or enough leeway on your credit card. I remember it kind of taking me a little bit by surprise, but don't worry, it'll be okay. Ran out of memory, sorry. Remember this, after you go to your BRP appointment, again, they will have stamped or signed your visa checklist, they'll have given you some information. You need to be able to mail your passport, proof of your BRP appointment, and a few other documents to your passport or immigration center. You pay for the postage for this when you submit your visa application. They give you a few options for paying more money to have faster shipping or a higher priority on your application. I didn't pay for any of that. I just went for the generic, the cheapest option, and everything was okay. So as long as you're not incredibly far behind, you should be okay. Now, after you go to your BRP appointment, you have, I think it is 5 business days to mail proof of the BRP appointment, your passport, and other documents to one of these application centers. Make sure that you post it within these 5 days. If you post it outside of these 5 days, things may work out, they might not, but just try your best to post it within these 5 days. I remember I was cutting it a little bit close, but I made it, and things worked out. Now, a problem that I had, and a problem that some other people may have, is the address that you're planning to move to in Glasgow or Scotland or the UK changes between submitting your visa application online and mailing in the information. This happened for me, and it was a little bit stressful. I had been talking to a landlord in Glasgow and had signed a contract and was going to be staying in a room in the West End, and something happened with her current tenants and things didn't work out, so I suddenly had to switch from that to signing a contract with a private student accommodation, which is where I ended up staying. However, I had already put that original address on my visa application after I had submitted it and printed it, but this was before my BRP appointment and before I mailed things into the application center. I was like, oh shit, this is not an ideal situation. But don't worry, there's something you can do. You can write a cover letter to go with the documents that you are sending to the application center, explaining the situation and explaining that you have a correction to make on your application just because your situation has changed. This is fine, it happens all the time. As long as you just follow the instructions and do what they ask you to do, more than likely they will understand your issue. They won't think you're scamming them in any way, don't worry. And this probably applies for other changes that you may need to make on your visa application between submitting it and mailing it. So double check online if you have any discrepancies that you need to rectify. Usually you can change these in a cover letter. Kate texted me. I hope she's not looking for her outfit. I wish I'd written down all the dates where I sent my visa application, I got my BRP appointment, I mailed it out, I got it back, things like that. I wish I had written that down, but the only dates I do remember, thanks to an old Instagram story, is that my BRP appointment was on July 10th, and I was planning to leave for Scotland on September 8th, I believe. You can double check my Moving to Scotland vlog for that. And with my BRP appointment on July 10th and moving to Scotland on September 8th, I had everything completely returned to me, everything worked out perfectly fine within that time frame, didn't have to pay for priority or anything like that. I believe I still got my passport back probably at some point in August, and it was okay. But that is a perfect segue into my next topic, which is finding accommodation that you want to live in here in Glasgow. From my experience, you have 3 options for accommodation. You have university-sponsored student accommodation, you have private student accommodation, or you could lease a flat from a landlord or a tenancy agency. So the first option is university-sponsored accommodation, and by that I mean accommodation that is owned specifically by the University of Glasgow for University of Glasgow students. This is most likely your easiest and most cost-effective option. With this accommodation, however, you get what you pay for. You will have your own room with a bed and a bathroom and a desk, but you will share a living room or a kitchen area with several other flatmates. This is similar to the student accommodation that I stayed in when I was in Galway, and while I enjoyed my experience with that, I didn't really want to do it again. I wanted more of a private place for myself. It is Another good thing to note is that this kind of accommodation does not require a UK guarantor. Essentially, this is someone who lives in the UK who will take on the burden of paying for your contract if you don't pay rent or something like that. Some places, especially in private accommodation, do require a UK guarantor, and if they don't require a UK guarantor, they may ask you to pay for half or all of your rent, as in like 6 or 12 months of it up front, but this isn't always the case. The next option is what I ended up doing after my first option backfired, as I mentioned before, and that is private student accommodation. This is through a third-party provider like Hello Student, which is what I used, or I think Unilodgers, maybe another one. I think there's some in the city from a place called IQ, maybe? I don't know. I should have researched this more. I didn't. These are a bit more expensive than student accommodation, but they are a little bit nicer and they do feel a little bit newer, and you do have the option to stay in a studio flat, which is what I did because I was ready to live alone. I would say the vast majority of people staying in this kind of accommodation are international students, and this is because a lot of them don't require a UK guarantor. They will, however, make you pay for either your full or half of your rent up front. And while they are more expensive, your utilities are included, so feel free to bump up that heat, take a hot shower, wash your clothes as much as you want. If you're like me and stay in a studio, it is a good thing to note that your accommodation will not come with a lot of amenities, like you won't get an electric kettle, you won't get pots and pans, you won't get a trash can, things like that. So you will need to take a fun little trip to IKEA and get yourself straightened out. But I enjoyed my little studio. If you are moving here and are going to face the possibility of quarantine or lockdown, this is not the option I would pick, because living in a little studio by yourself during lockdown is terrible. A lot of times the private student accommodations have better locations when it comes to being closer to campus. Since there are a lot of them around the city, some are closer to University of Glasgow, some are closer to Strathclyde, some are closer to whatever other places around here. So make sure you do your research and find out which one is closest to you if this is the option you want to go for. Additionally, this is one of the easier options for international students, because when it comes to private accommodation through landlords and stuff, you really want to see stuff like that in person before you agree to rent, or at least you want to know someone who's lived there before. So at least when it comes to something that's run by a third-party organization and relies on word-of-mouth recommendation and reviews online, you know that the quality is going to be a little bit more standardized, but again, I'm not guaranteeing luxury, I'm just guaranteeing like a room. Now the last accommodation option you can go for, which is honestly the one I would recommend the most, but it does take a little bit more work and a little bit more bravery, and that is renting privately from a landlord or an agency. These can vary wildly in price, location, and quality. You can get a flat by yourself, which is what I'm doing right now, or you can share with friends. If you want to have roommates and you want the cost to be lower, or you want to live with other students, you can go on Spare Room. That's a great way to find a room in a flat that's just looking for one other person. Maybe someone's moving out and you can just move in and take their spot. Then you'll have people you know when you move to the city, and they'll already have some necessary amenities in the flat, like pots and pans, like an electric kettle, things like that, and it gives you a little bit more leeway in like setting up your own room and catching up. If you already know some people who are moving to Glasgow, or you already know some people in the city and you all want to get a flat together, a great website you can go on is Rightmove. This website is great for finding completely empty flats. I mean, not empty as in like not furnished, you can find furnished places, but flats where you and a group of people can come together and rent one all together, and you won't have to deal with finding strangers on Spare Room and things like that. Spare Room is what I used when I was looking for a flat the first time. It just didn't work out. I could have gone back on Spare Room and figured something else out, but I kind of got scared, and so that's why I went the private student accommodation route. While some landlords do require a UK guarantor, not all of them do, and while some of them would make you pay a large chunk or deposit of your rent up front, not all of them will. So just do your research, keep your eyes open, it'll be okay. Another thing you should know, especially if you're moving to Scotland or Glasgow, is Scottish rental laws. They highly favor tenants. So if you're worried about being locked into one place for the whole time that you're here, then you probably shouldn't go for university-sponsored or private student accommodation, because when they ask you to pay your rent up front, you're locked into that contract. However, when it comes to renting privately through a landlord or a tenancy agency, as long as you give them notice a month in advance of when you're planning on moving out, then you can break your contract and there will be no issues about it. So that's a good thing to note. So if you're worried about being stuck somewhere, or you're worried about, or you think that you may be moving around or something like that, the best thing to do is to go with a private landlord or tenancy agency, because it will offer you the most flexibility. So if you're worried about renting a terrible place and you feel like you're going to be trapped there all year, don't worry about it. You won't necessarily be stuck with it. You can move out if you need to. Now, a lot of people have also asked me about the best locations to live in Glasgow, especially if you're studying at Glasgow Uni, and obviously there are a lot of great locations you can live. The best locations for accessibility when it comes to Glasgow Uni is anywhere in the West End. When I first moved here, I lived in the Woodlands and it was a great location. Hillhead by Byers Road is another great location, super close to the university, though it would probably be hard to find a flat there since it's probably a very popular location. I currently live in Partick, which is really close to the university. It's a bit longer of a walk, but honestly not bad at all. Let's see, I had a friend who lived in Kelvinbridge, which was, again, very close to the university. She was a student. It was a great location. And let's see, are there any others? Hindland, Finiston, anywhere like that. I think I knew someone who lived in Maryhill. You can definitely go a bit further afield or even into the city center, especially if you're planning on getting a bike or if you're near any subway stops. If you choose to live somewhere near a subway stop, then all you would have to do is take the subway in a circle, and the closest one to the university is the Hillhead stop. All right, we're done with the accommodation stuff, and I feel like my camera's about to die on me again, but let's see how far we can get. All right, I'm gonna go really quickly through things you should do or think about before you depart. Number one, student loans. If you're like me and you're an American, you can get US loans to study abroad at the University of Glasgow. If you're going to a different university, definitely double check that they're on the list, but I think you should be okay. If you are planning on taking out student loans to get this degree, yay. You probably will because it is a bit more expensive as an international student, yay. Then all you need to do is go on the University of Glasgow website and look up student loans under the international student section. They'll give you the email of this very nice lady who works in the student loan office at the University of Glasgow. All you gotta do is email her, tell her you're looking into doing student loans. She'll help you set everything up, and then when your student loans are ready to be picked up, when you get to Glasgow, she will send you an email. She will make sure you have all the forms that you need. It's great. I think her name, when I was doing it, her name was Carol, so if you've still got Carol, you're in good hands. Next thing is plane tickets. You're gonna have to book your plane tickets before you get to Scotland. Who would have thought? You can obviously fly into Glasgow, but other good options are flying into Edinburgh. You can take the bus from Edinburgh Airport straight to Glasgow City Centre. Super easy. Some people also fly into Manchester. I think there's also a bus from the Manchester Airport to Glasgow. So you have plenty of options. Just figure out what's the easiest, what's the cheapest. I will say that I took Norwegian and one of my suitcases was temporarily lost, but I did get it back. I think part of the problem was because I had a lot of flight connections or something, or they were overweight or something like that. Please pack lightly and don't be prepared to lose things, or at least temporarily be without them. If you want to see the drama of me losing my suitcase, definitely watch my vlog. Before you leave, it would also be a great idea to figure out how you're getting to Glasgow or how you're getting to your accommodation. Like I said, you can very easily take a bus into Glasgow City Centre from the Glasgow Airport, from the Edinburgh Airport, from several other places. The bus system is very easy. I would just Google it ahead of time just so you know what you're looking for. Additionally, once you get to Glasgow City Centre, it should be really easy to just call an Uber and get it to take you to your destination. But if you are looking to take a bus or something like that, it's really easy to look it up ahead of time. Before you leave, you should also research what bank account you're going to try to use and what phone plan you're going to try to get. This will just make everything so much smoother once you get here. As for bank account, the best one for me and for a lot of the people I know who were international students is like a basic account from the Bank of Scotland. They're one of the least strict when it comes to like having UK residency and things like that. So that's definitely a good one to look for if you're going to be a student here. I would highly recommend having a bank account, well, mostly because you'll get a local card that uses pounds and you can do the contactless tapping, and people do it for everything here. And if you whip out an American card and can't do your contactless tapping, it is so annoying. It is so annoying. So highly recommend getting a bank account. As for a phone plan, I currently use giffgaff because my accommodation gave me like a SIM card to use from them, and I just top it up monthly. I still use it. First I was going to use 3, which is what I used when I was in London and when I was in Ireland, and I really trust them, but the service for 3 is terrible in Glasgow, so don't go for that. Go for something else. I think Vodafone might be pretty good. Like I said about packing, please pack light. I know it's very scary to move to a place for 12 to 18 to possibly a lot more months, but I promise that you really don't need as much as you think you will. Make sure if you need anything in particular for your program that you can either get it when you're here or that you pack it. For example, if you're studying computer science, you should bring your computer. You will have access to the computer labs, but you should definitely have your own laptop if you're doing this. Like, I can't imagine trying to do it without a laptop, truly. And also before you get here, it might be a good idea to figure out the closest grocery store, like a Tesco or Sainsbury's, and the closest takeaway to your accommodation, because when you get here, you're gonna be incredibly tired, and you're gonna just wanna get some basic supplies, some food, maybe a Chinese, and just chill and get your bearings. So it's always a good idea to just kind of know what's around you so that when you get in, you don't have to like go absolutely insane, okay? Now that we've talked about things to do before you leave, let's talk about things to do when you arrive. Now, within the first few days of arriving, the university will probably send you an email about picking up your biometric residence permit. You'll probably have to go to a building at the university and they will have to confirm that you are who you say you are, and they can give you your nice little pink card, and it is very exciting. For some reason, the border control was kind of weird when I came in, coming from America. I had to go through a passport scanner machine instead of going up to an actual human being to stamp my passport. For that reason, they just needed to see my plane tickets. So I brought my paper tickets with me. Thank God I still had them. But usually they would make sure you have the stamp in your passport. I will note, I don't know how Brexit has changed these things, but when I did it, you couldn't go, if you have a connecting flight, don't take it through Ireland into the UK because you will not get the correct stamp in your passport, or you will not go through the correct border control or wherever. Just because of the border between Ireland and Northern Ireland, it complicates the border between Ireland and the rest of the UK. If you need to get a passport stamp or you need to get something like that, going through Ireland will just complicate things, and you may have to leave the country and re-enter, and you don't want to have to do that. The next thing you should do is get your phone straightened out, because you will want to be able to contact people and make and receive phone calls while you're there. So go visit whatever provider you would like to get a phone plan from. I like the ones where you just pay monthly for like 20 gigs or unlimited data or something like that. It's usually like £20 per month at a lot of places. However, you should make sure that your phone is unlocked before you do this. You can contact your provider back home and make sure that your phone is actually unlocked, or else you will try to put in a SIM card and it will not work. This is a fact that I knew for a very long time because I did this research when I studied abroad in London and when I studied abroad in Ireland. However, I made the mistake of upgrading my phone before I moved here. And what I didn't know is that with Verizon, if you upgrade your phone, even though your phone is supposed to be unlocked, for 3 months after you get your new phone, your phone is locked from putting in a new SIM card, and you can't put in a new one. So for 3 months, I had my phone on airplane mode and went to Vodafone to get a burner, and I had to give myself a hotspot with my burner phone whenever I wanted to use my phone and wasn't on Wi-Fi. And I also had to use my burner phone to make calls and such. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. So it was very stressful, especially like if you were in your friend's apartment trying to order an Uber and having to like make sure that the Uber was there, because as soon as you left the apartment you'd be off the Wi-Fi and you needed to be able to run and make sure they didn't leave you. Honestly, listen, just nothing but adventures over here. Alright, once you have your phone all straightened out, you need to use that phone or your computer or whatever to make an appointment to set up a bank account. Again, I did this with Bank of Scotland. They're gonna need to see some documentation from you. They may need a letter from your university. You can go to the university website and request one of these letters. It's really easy, and then you go and pick it up from campus. It's got your name and information and everything, and a stamp and a signature probably on it. This just confirms to the bank that you are who you say you are and you're actually a student, and blah, 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 blah. Again, I don't know how it is in lockdown times, but I had to go into a physical Bank of Scotland branch for an appointment and get everything set up, and then they mailed me my new card as well as a PIN number. You don't get to make your own PIN number like in the US. They send you one and then you just have to memorize it, and it's fun. Like I said, depending on where you're living, you may need to go buy appliances. Thankfully, there is an IKEA in Glasgow. You can take a bus to it. However, at the beginning of the year, it is very crowded. Lots of students who are also trying to go to IKEA. You can also do an Uber if you're just really lazy. Or you can try to find a friend with a car, but since you just moved here, that's not gonna be very easy. I will say that Poundland has some great cheap kitchen equipment like bowls and cutlery and plates and wine bottle openers and general things of that nature. So if you're in a pinch, that would be a good option for you. And also, when you get here, write down when your information sessions are. You won't get any reminder emails about when you are, so write them down as soon as you get the first email about them and make sure you go to them. Like, it's not mandatory that you have to go to a lot of these information sessions, but you got nothing else to do, so you might as well. Now, as an international student, you will have some kind of international orientation. I overslept and didn't make it to the international orientation, but that's okay because I made friends who could tell me what was at the international orientation. They will also offer campus tours, so you can take a tour around the campus and like see where everything is. I took a campus tour when I was deciding to come here, so I skipped that as well because I assumed it would just be all the same stuff, like this is the library, this is the gym, like they're not going to tell you where your specific classrooms are or anything like that, so. You should also figure out how to get to all of your classes and make sure you know where all the buildings are, because even though the campus isn't huge, it can be a bit confusing. And if you can get into the buildings, I would highly suggest making sure you can find the room, because let me tell you, some of the floors and room names are very confusing. So definitely try to figure that out ahead of time. I didn't, I was okay, but I want you to be better than me. There may be an app that you can download from the University of Glasgow that will show you how to get to a bunch of different rooms. You're free to use that if you so desire. And additionally, especially if you're an international student and are moving to Scotland, this may be your first time visiting here, you may want to see a little bit of the country, provided you're not on quarantine or lockdown or anything of that nature. I think the university has a deal with this tour company called Celtic Ginger, and you can sign up to take bus tours with that company to like Aberdeen or Dundee or I don't know, St. Andrews, a bunch of different places like that. I didn't do any with that because again, I missed the information session. But I have some friends who took those tours and they did enjoy them. I had already been to Scotland before, so I'd seen a lot of the big touristy sites, but I did one weekend take a tour with Rabbies to Loch Lomond and the Trossachs. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I do have a video about it, and you can see my experience with the Rabbies tour. It's a great tour company, really easy to book, but again, you can't do it if we're in lockdown, so. And the last section I wanted to have in this video, because a lot of people have asked me about this, is how to meet people and make friends when you move here. I gotta admit, it's the same as everywhere else, but I will give you my tips anyways. So again, if you're moving here during lockdown or quarantine, this is all gonna be completely different. Things are just really hard right now. I myself am having a hard time meeting people and finding things to do because nothing is open and there's literally nothing to do. But that's okay, it is not a personal failure. If you were alone for a little while, you will survive. However, this is what I did before everything happened. Societies and sports clubs are really big here, and they're a very easy way to find a group of people with similar interests to you, who you may be able to get along with. Yes, even as a master's or postgraduate student, you can still join these clubs. You will probably be in clubs with undergrads. That's okay. A few of the ones that I joined or tried to join or tested out, I joined but didn't participate a lot with the mountaineering club. I went to some climbing taster sessions, and I went to some of the pub nights, but it's a very large club, and if you want to go on any hiking or climbing weekends with them, they don't have any university-sponsored buses or accommodation or anything like that, so if you want to go on trips with them over the weekend, you will have to find a car to ride in, and so you may need to network a bit in the club before you can do anything like that. And I wanted to, but I got a bit intimidated because even though I was very interested in climbing and hiking and things like that, I wasn't super experienced in it, so I didn't feel like I had a lot to offer. Don't let that stop you. Be better than me. I also joined and went to a couple of meetings of the Whiskey Society. I think it's either once a week or once a month. I cannot remember to save my life, but essentially they have whiskey tastings and you can try a few different kinds of Scotch whiskey. You may meet people, and it's really fun. And honestly, I think if you're moving to Scotland and you drink, you should probably go to a couple whiskey tasting sessions just to figure out what you like, so that if you go to a pub or a bar or something and people are ordering whiskey, you know what you like and you don't get surprised by anything. I joined the skydiving club, and I went to a couple pub nights, and I went to one of their training sessions at one of the skydiving centers in Scotland, where they teach you how to skydive and how to be prepared for it. This isn't tandem skydiving, this is going by yourself. And I was really, really excited to do it, but I did the training in February of 2020, and it was raining that weekend and the weather was really bad, so we couldn't jump that weekend. And then we all know what happened after that, and I still haven't been able to jump. But hopefully within the next couple years. I'm not sure if I'll be able to still do it with that organization because I'm obviously not a student anymore, but I do want to go skydiving at some point, somewhere. Probably tandem, because I don't really want to pay for and go through that training again because it's definitely expired by now. And the last club that I joined, which ended up being my favorite, was the figure skating club. It was a brand new club when I came to Glasgow in the fall, and I signed up for information sessions, but it never worked out with my schedule to be able to go to any of the meetups or anything like that. So I didn't actually join this club until the spring semester, and I went to a taster session at the ice skating rink. I messaged on the Facebook page, and I got to carpool with some really nice people, and I figure skated when I was really little, like when I was 8 or 9, but I really enjoy it and I really wanted to get back into it. And it was an incredibly fun club, a great group of people, and which leads me to my next point about joining clubs and societies. Don't just join the ones that are really popular, and don't just join the ones that are really popular with other international students, like the whiskey tasting one, the mountaineering one, things like that. It's really fun to join a small, tight-knit club filled with a lot of local people. You'll get to know a lot of local people, a lot of local students. You get to feel closer with your club because it's a smaller group of people. And you get to feel more a part of the community. Like, we'd have to go to different places to go to ice rinks. Sometimes we couldn't use the one at the Braehead Center, so a bunch of us would take the train to Coatbridge to practice. And at no other point in my education would I ever take a train to Coatbridge. I felt like I was more a member of the community because I was going to places that were kind of like off the beaten track. Another way you can make friends and meet people is by meeting fellow international students. Once you've been accepted at the University of Glasgow, either you could join or you may be added to a Facebook page, usually region specific. So for example, I was on a Facebook page for North American people who were accepted to University of Glasgow, and we could post and ask each other visa application questions, accommodation questions, things like that. It was really great to have, and there were some employees of the University of Glasgow who were on the page who could advise us if we had any specific questions. But I remember posting something on there or responding to something on there, and I mentioned that I was living in North Carolina, and another girl commented that she was in North Carolina. It happened that I was living in Durham at the time, she was living in Raleigh, big North Carolina inside information here. And we decided to meet up and get burgers and beers one night. And she was also getting her master's degree. She actually went to the university that my dad went to. And we're still friends today, and she lives in London, and once lockdown is over, I really can't wait to visit her. You can also, I know this is another shocking possibility, but you can meet people in your program. I know, it's like a built-in community of people who enjoy the things you enjoy because they're studying it and they paid to study it. With the way master's programs work here, the people that you meet in your program will probably be the people that you're going to be in classes with for the rest of your time here at Glasgow. So if you just see someone in your lecture who looks cool or fun or nice, just go sit next to them and ask them about Unix. I don't know. That's what coders do. But in addition to meeting people in your lecture, there will also be job fairs, there will be networking events that you can go to. I will be talking more about job fairs and networking events in my next video about how to stay here. But a lot of the people going to these fairs and networking events are probably going to be people in your program. I went to an event about women in technology, and there were a bunch of women from my program there. It's perfect. And the last way that you can meet people while you're here, which again is not the best during quarantine, is dating apps. Yeah, I know, but yeah, Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, they're all widely used here. And you don't just have to do it for dating. I actually used Bumble BFF a little bit last year, and the results were nice. I've met a couple of great people, have gotten to get coffee with them before lockdowns got stricter, and now I feel like I have more friends throughout the city that I can meet up with and get pints with when places reopen. But you can also use these apps for dating, and it's a way to meet people. I'm just gonna put that out there. So that is all the things that I could remember to say in this video. I hope this was at all helpful for you if you decided to click on this video. If you have any other questions, feel free to message me on Instagram or post in the comments and I can try to answer it for you. Again, I'm not an expert on any of this by any means, but I did do it. So in some ways, I am an expert. If this is a process that you're about to embark on, best of luck. If you're moving to Glasgow, I hope I see you around. I'm obviously gonna be making my video about moving permanently to the UK after being in a graduate program. If you want me to make a video more specifically about the course I took, about doing a conversion degree, I'm more than happy to do that. Or if you want any other videos about living in Scotland, or I don't know what you want from me. Thanks for hanging out with me for a while and chatting about my good old master's degree days, you know, good times. So like and subscribe, and I'll see you when I see you.